Hello, end users, and welcome to the End User Report. We are your hosts. I'm Clarence.
And I'm Jamal.
And before we start the show today, we just want to actually thank Louisville and Xavier for jacking up my NCAA bracket. Thank you for screwing up winning my office pool. It's awesome.
I also want to thank VCU for making the Big East look bad.
Man, you are such a hater. But let's get to the show. This week, we're talking about the HTC Thunderbolt. But before we get into that, Jamal, you weren't here last week. Last week, we actually did the RIM playbook. Lisa filled in for you. So really quick, I just kind of want to get your opinions of what you know of the RIM playbook.
Well, before I want to start, I want to thank Stats Girl for filling in for me. I'm sure she's a lot easier on the eyes than I was.
I think it's because of the comparison of the boob ratio. It had something to do with that.
I need to grow some boobs.
I think you're doing just fine right there.
I gotta get them bigger.
All right, next topic.
All right, the RIM playbook, nice device. Pretty much mimics a lot of the other tablet devices out there. The only problem that I've always had an issue with RIM is their software. The operating system's okay, but I don't just think they have app support that they should. Now, if they're gearing the RIM playbook for enterprise market, then I think it'll be a success. But if they're trying to gear it towards the Joe tech guy like you and I don't know if that's gonna, because there's so many choices out there right now for tablets alone. I mean, you have the iPad, iPad 2, the Motorola Zoom, you have the now the RIM playbook, and a couple of vaporwares that's supposed to be out soon too.
Yeah, HTC is coming out with one that's, I believe it's called the Flyer.
Don't forget the Galaxy S tablet.
Yep.
And then they have Galaxy's coming out. Samsung's coming out with the Galaxy S 10.1. So lots of choices, and I think RIM is, hopefully, if they're trying to get into the enterprise market, then I think they're good. That BlackBerry's do well in the market. So who knows?
Yeah, how about that BlackBerry Marketplace?
Yeah, they have a Facebook app, Twitter app, and that's it.
Pretty much that is it.
You know, that's it's bad.
And those don't work too well as it is.
No, they don't.
But let's get into the show. Again, we are talking about the HTC Thunderbolt. It was released just this March 17th. This is going to be this is the first 4G phone that's on Verizon's LTE network. Here are the specs. It's got a 1 gigahertz Snapdragon processor, 4.3 inch touchscreen. It's got 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, dual LED flash, 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera. It's got 32 gigs pre-installed, which that's very nice. Mm-hmm. Built-in wireless, Bluetooth.
Pre-installed meaning that they give you the microSD card.
Right. Bluetooth 2.1, and it's going to go up to 3.0 when that's available. Battery is, I believe, 1400 milliamps. Dual mics with noise cancellation. It's got a G proximity and light sensor. The chipset is based on the Qualcomm. It also has Android 2.2 with HTC Sense. Pricing on the phone, as far as we know, $249.99 with a 2-year contract on Verizon. I did read this morning that there were a number of deals. I believe Amazon.com was selling it for $180, and I believe LetsTalk.com was selling it up until Monday for $174.99. Stat Girl, can you confirm any of that?
Well, at the Let's Talk site, they're offering it currently for $249 with a 2-year contract through Verizon. And then Amazon actually has it back ordered, so they're not taking any orders right now on it.
Okay.
They also ask you to indicate if because it's through Amazon Wireless, if you're a new Verizon customer or an existing, when you actually order.
Okay. I was still pretty sure. I saw Let's Talk had a deal on this until the 21st. But let's move on and let's get to your feelings on the HTC Thunderbolt.
I guess I just want to add something to that about that. It does allow you to do a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot. Enables up to 8 nodes to connect to it. So the question, I guess, I don't know, maybe StatsGo can look this up, is the tethering going to be included in the price of the contract, or will it be an extra charge?
Actually, I can confirm that, and we'll get to that later. My feeling on the HTC Thunderbolt is that it's a good phone. It's a great device. It's got everything that you want as far as the specs. The specs match up with the cream of the crop as far as smartphones go out there, and we know it's running Android, so it's definitely got the software to back it up. There's a couple things that I want to bring to people's attention when they're buying this phone. Firstly is the plan. It is a smartphone, so what you are going to need to do is, with Verizon, you are going to need to sign up for some type of talk plan. Those start right around $40. And also, you're going to have to sign up for a 4G data plan on this. And I believe that starts at $29.99. The second thing, and this is what you were alluding to, is the mobile hotspot feature. If you buy this phone by May 15th, you get the mobile hotspot feature thrown in for free. Buy it after May 15th, it's going to be $20 a month for 2 gigs of data. So it is a nice feature, but if you want it, like you say, after May 15th, you're going to have to pay to play.
Yeah.
The last thing that I do want to mention is security. Now, if you've been following the news at all, you do know that earlier this month, Google had to remove about 50 malicious apps off the Android market. Now, Google has gone ahead and said that they've fixed the exploit that caused the issue, but it's unclear whether or not the HTC Thunderbolt has been shipped with that fix. So, from the sound of it, I do think it's a great phone, but that's something I want to know before I buy the phone, whether or not it's already...
Well, I think it would have been shipped with the fix because the Android marketplace is controlled by Google itself, so they would have had... it would have been in the marketplace. I don't think those apps would have been actually pre-shipped, pre-installed onto the actual phones themselves.
Right, but the exploit's part of the OS. If the OS was shipped, you would have to think that HTC would have had to have played a part to help fix the security hole.
And this is another reason why Apple fanboys are going, like, yeah, I told you so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Apple does, you know, it's a walled garden, and they do look over apps, they scrutinize over the apps. And, you know, in that way, you don't have to worry about if you have, I don't know, Angry Birds version of a virus on your phone. This day was coming anyway that your phones would have to have antivirus on it.
Yep.
Sad. I like the phone too. It's fast. I mean, it's
it is fast.
Really fast. I think it's almost comparably just as fast as the Galaxy S phone. It uses the HTC Sense GUI, which I like. It's pretty cool. It adds a little bit more added features on top of the Android brand. 8 megapixel camera, my goodness, that's pretty dang good. 720 megapixel video, which I think is pretty cool too. And the fact that they're adding, literally, if you think about it, 40 gigs of space to the phone, that is phenomenal. I mean, that's just like, wow. And on top of that, I heard that the actual processor itself has a processor memory of like one gig or something of that nature, which allows for the ability of the phone to be so fast. Again, this is Verizon's first LTE or 4G phone, if you will. If you're looking for a 4G phone, I would probably hedge my bets on this one because of the fact that it's faster. It's got all of the features that you would expect in the Sprint version of the phone, of their 4G phone.
The Evo.
The Evo.
And that's a good segue into a question that I have here. A lot of people are going to make comparisons between this phone and the Evo. What do you think about that?
Well, if someone was to come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for a 4G phone, and I want to get right now you have the choice of the Sprint Evo or the HTC Thunderbolt, I hands down would tell them to go get the Thunderbolt. I mean, unless, of course, Sprint gave you some ridiculous, awesome deal on the data plan, then I would say, yeah, go with the Evo. But I think if you're looking at just from device to device comparison, the Thunderbolt wins hands down. So I would go with that. But again, it all depends on if you get a good contract.
I'm not going to say it's going to win hands down. I think people should think of this in the way that they think of cars. The Evo came out, I believe it was roughly 9 months ago, and this is kind of like the new model. You know, the 2010 Escalade was nice, but it's 2011 now.
The new model that's faster,
yeah, it is.
More, gives you better 40 gigs of space right out front.
Yeah, essentially, this is the Evo on roids. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's got a bigger kickstand, which is nice. You can actually stand this phone up on its end. The Evo came with roughly 9 gigs total internally. This one's rocking 40. Thunderbolt has a more efficient processor, and you're talking 768 megabits of RAM compared to 512 that the Evo had. The advantages that the Evo does have, it's a little bit of a slimmer phone. So that's making it a little bit lighter. It costs less. I believe you can get it for, I think, $120 I last saw. And the one thing, the battery life on the Evo is actually a little bit better. The 1400 milliamp battery in the Thunderbolt is compared to a 1500 milliamp battery for the Evo. So there are some advantages to having an Evo. It's just how much speed and memory do you want?
I don't think it's fair to compare a new phone that's coming out to an older phone that's been out for a year. And of course, the older phone that's been out for a year is going to be low in price. So I wouldn't look at that as a fair comparison. If you're looking at from the hardware specs, the Thunderbolt, in my opinion, is the better phone.
Yeah, but I think your average person, when they're looking at it, it's not all specs. They're going to look at what's the best value for my money. If they have a phone that can actually, which the Evo actually, they've done side-by-side tests, has a little bit longer battery life, over an hour. So I think that's something that people might want to look at.
That might be a consideration, but in the long run, you're better off getting the new phone.
That is true.
Getting the Thunderbolt. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Well, what do you think the Thunderbolt release means for Verizon, and what do you think it means for HTC?
Well, what it means for Verizon is that they're in the 4G market. They're in the game now. And they're not just talking about 4G, and we have LTE, all this is what we call long-term evolution. They're actually in the game now. They're playing in the game with Sprint. Now, we'll see what happens now, because now AT&T is talking about it, and T-Mobile is talking about getting into the 4G market.
I think T-Mobile already has the 4G touch. So
that's true, they do. Thank you. So, I mean, they're in the game now. So that's what it means for Verizon. The problem that I see, though, with the Thunderbolt is that they already have the iPhone. They already have the iPad and the iPad 2, and I don't think the Thunderbolt is going to be their best seller. I still think the iPhone is going to be the best seller for Verizon. Although you'll talk to some Verizon guys, and they swear up and down that they could do, that their business is better without the Apple. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Apple and the iPhone, because one thing that I do remember, a lot of the Verizon skeptics out there, two of the things that they said is, well, Verizon's nice, they got good phones, but they don't have the iPhone, they don't have the Evo, and essentially now they have both.
Yep.
So if you thought when you walked into the Verizon store you felt like a deer in the headlights then, now when you walk in there, this is just another option. Just like Jamal said, they're in the 4G market now, and this is a great first entry into that market. I think it's going to draw a lot of people. As you see, it's already on backstock on Amazon.com. As far as HTC,
they're in the good grounds, in my opinion. HTC just makes such beautiful devices.
Yes, they do.
And they continue, if they still continue down that thinking of making beautiful devices, I don't think their company will have any problems. I would, if you ever get a chance, if you can get the money, buy the unlocked HTC phones. You'll love it so much better than if you actually went to Verizon or to AT&T or to T-Mobile and got those branded phones, which I think, I mean, they're great phones, but because of the branding, it just kind of tarnishes the phone a little bit. If you can shell out a little bit more money, I know those phones are expensive, but if you can get an unlocked HTC phone, oh man, you'll love it. You will love it.
Yeah, I think that the HTC putting this phone out on Verizon is a great move for them. I mean, for Sprint, we saw what the Evo did for Sprint, pretty much put them back in the mind of cell phone buyers. And it's not going to do the same thing for Verizon because, well, people already have it in their minds that Verizon is good. But for HTC, this is something that they can use as a platform to throw out some other products. I know they've already got 2 phones that have a dedicated Facebook button, which if you've seen the video, it's like whatever you're doing on this phone, whether it's an article, you just hit that button and automatically just shares it, which is kind of a nice feature. But for HTC, this is nothing but good news.
Yeah, and it's nothing but good news for the user. That's the most important thing, is that the user now has choice. You know, they have a 4G capable phone that you can either choose on 3 carriers. So I think it's a win-win for us.
Definitely. So I think I might have to go look at one today.
Yeah. I'll probably go to the Verizon store, check one out too.
Oh, you're going to go look at the Nook again and get your free coffee.
Yeah, they stopped doing that. Cheap bastards.
See how you are?
You see, I tell everybody about the Nook free coffee, and now they stopped it.
You jinxed everyone.
I think I did. Damn.
You probably jinxed my brackets too. But let's move on to the next segment of the show. We call this Showing Some Love. This is where we just pick a product that maybe we saw this past week, and we're showing it some respect. So, Jamal, what you got?
I'm showing some love to the Apple iPad 2. I think it's obvious. I think Apple has pretty much hit a home run with this device. I don't think they can repeat the performance of this. I think everything's going to go downhill after that for Apple. I still am not very fond of the walled garden approach that Apple uses with their devices. In other words, that you have to buy into the whole Apple concept, and you know, that walled garden effect I don't like. But the cool thing about the iPads is that I'm sure that somebody will come out with a hack that will allow you to jailbreak it, and it'll be the device that everybody wants it to be. And the reason why I'm giving love, because I did a side-by-side. I looked at the iPad 2, and I had a Motorola Zoom in my hand. And the Motorola Zoom, as nice as a device it is, and it's beautifully designed, it felt like I was holding a big-ass phone. It literally felt like I was holding a big-ass phone. And I think what the iPad 2 and the iPad did is they said, well, you know what? This device isn't a phone. And so we're going to create an iOS that is specifically geared for like a tablet-type experience. Meanwhile, Motorola is saying, well, we're just going to slap Android on it, which is the same type of OS that we put on phones, on our Motorola phones. And instead of maybe tweaking it to actually work, and maybe this might be a thing with Google that maybe Google needs to look at and say, well, we just can't slap and brand everything with Android on it. Maybe we need to have an Android operating system that is specifically for tablets.
Isn't that what Honeycomb is supposed to be?
Supposedly,
I'm
but
just saying. So even with Honeycomb, it still felt like a big phone.
It just felt like a phone.
It sounds like the Galaxy S tab revisited.
Yeah, maybe the HP, when they come out with their touchpad, if they ever do come out with it, that they'll learn from their counterparts.
You see us shaking our head right now.
Yeah, because it's vaporware.
The segment's called Showing Some Love, and you're just tearing down Motorola and Android and Zoom.
Hey,
You're just tearing
showing
down.
love to Apple,
showing
man.
hate.
And iPad too. What can I say, man?
We're now changing the name of the show, this segment of the show,
Showing some hate.
to Haterade, because he was obviously drinking it this morning. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show love to BioWare, EA, and Dragon Age 2. Awesome game. So many improvements over the first one. It's faster.
Wait, that's so
better.
odd. You showing love to a game?
Showing love to a game. Well, I'm saying if we were talking about games and we did showing some love, you talk about World of Warcraft and Cooking Mama every week.
Well, World of Warcraft, I'd always show love for that. And Cooking Mama too. You never played that, so if you would.
Yes, there is even Dragon Age 2. There is even Dragon Age Legends, which you can actually play on Facebook and actually bring over objects that you get in that game and actually use them when you play it on your Xbox or your PS3. So, wonderful game.
Stats Girl is choking herself and
because she hates all things Dragon Age.
Stats Girl.
He's pretty much. He's one step away from Farmville.
Negative.
He's gonna be clean my chicken coop in a week.
I don't. You know what? I would play Farmville if I could go online and kill other people's cattle. Other than that, I have no interest. Can you do raids in Farmville, like on people's lands and stuff?
No.
Because otherwise, I don't want to play it.
You can donate money though.
I don't want to donate money. I want to jack people. Donate money. That's about wraps it up for the violence is good. Makes the world a better place. But that wraps it up for us here at the End User Report. Remember, you can always follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Don't forget, vote in our polls. We always leave the link right on the official YouTube page. And don't forget, comment and subscribe.
Peace.